My name's Richard.
And my name's Aron.
And this is We're Not Wizards. This is a repeat offenders edition. And all that means is that we get somebody wonderful back on the show that we've spoken to before. So this evening we have got, as you've heard, we've got Aron West from Elzra Games. Because we're going to have a little chat about what's been happening with Catacombs and Castles, the Kickstarter and that, and then what is going to be happening with the next game coming up, which is Conquest. Am I correct?
That's right.
Good. I was like racking my brains for a second just to make sure that I'd actually got that right. First of all, how are you doing?
Well, it seems surreal to me that I'm sitting here and the thing isn't on a store shelf at this point.
Yeah.
We're continuing to do our best to get it moving, get it loaded, and get it delivered to everybody. So that's where we're at the moment.
Because, I mean, there's a couple of things have kind of cropped up. Do you want to talk about that, or do you want to skip over it? Because you're probably sick of having read the same. I mean, maybe seen
not at all. I think it's a good opportunity to explain to people what happened. They can hear it actually in my own words.
Yeah.
As I always stay consistent about this issue, it was really three things. The first was my responsibility, and that was last year, owing to the number of Catacombs and Castles backers that also elected to add Catacombs 3rd Edition to their reward levels. I felt an additional responsibility to really ensure that Catacombs 3rd Edition was as the reprint was as good as it could possibly be. Mm-hmm. And I deliberately took some additional time to work with the printer so that they really understood the product and we could make some of the refinements to it that I felt that it would benefit from. Mm-hmm. That was the first thing. The second thing in doing that was I worked really hard to have everything ready before the early Chinese New Year. And we knew that Chinese New Year was very early, and despite working all through Christmas, we just simply couldn't make it happen. The Chinese team had started to decamp for their Chinese New Year holidays shortly after our Western New Year. Yeah, and it just wasn't feasible to finish. But it was the biggest issue in this production was actually nothing to do with us at all. I don't have a lot of detail about exactly what happened here, but the printer that we're working with, he's got an excellent reputation in the industry. He's was the one responsible for delivering Gloomhaven, which is probably the most complicated and heavy board game ever created by my colleague in the industry, Isaac Childress. And so I was confident in, and remain confident in that choice, in choosing him and his team. And he had a well-vetted wood component supplier that he had used on several jobs in China. And these people just completely dropped the ball. They appeared to have deliberately manipulated our quality assurance team about their progress. Yeah. So it's difficult when you visit a factory to know it, to see what they've done. So things are made first to a bulk state, and that just means to say that you'll see several bins of what is reported to be finished product. Yeah. But none of it's painted. So you don't know exactly what the quantities are of each of the painted components that are required to assemble a single finished game. And the quality assurance team over there started to get concerned that they were falling behind in terms of the production schedule that they had committed to. Because understand, we knew that the production of the wood components is the element that can take the longest. So we had submitted that order. back in 2016, and while we were working on refining some of the printed material. And it turns out that despite repeated visits to the factory, so we had people actually go there, we weren't just taking their word for it, they would say sort of in effect, yeah, we're working on it. But as soon as we left, in a sense, they went back to doing some other order that they perhaps had received. So all very disappointing.
Yeah.
And it required us to bring in another factory. And this is a factory that does more in the way of game components, because there's different factories and they all have different specialties, and they all fit into the supply chain in different ways. This one had a very good reputation as well, and was one that they have used several times in the past. And they immediately got to work and managed to finish everything. But of course, there was a lot of perceived delay as a result, because you can't mix the output of the two factories. Even though they're using the same wood, and it comes from the same tree, native to China, the paint is going to be slightly different. So it becomes difficult to match that precisely. So they'll hit it within a reasonable tolerance, but customer has the potential to still see some differences. So you don't want them looking at what we report as a blue disc, and then they see two slightly different shades of blue. Well, that doesn't look very good, obviously.
No.
So at this point, my understanding is, and remember, I'm not there, I'm just receiving the reports from the factory. My understanding is that for this particular printing, they've elected to use the wood that was produced by the second factory.
Right.
So it's all consistent, and my understanding is at this point is that it's all complete. So that factory has, as of now, is finished. So it's a case of just shipping it over, which is what we're doing.
Yeah.
So that it arrives at the printing factory for final assembly. So this is what the teams are putting it through right now.
Right.
So to that final assembly process. And I would think for many of the products now, that's complete. Most of them were supposed to be ready by the end of June, so we're there now. So they're all there, and they're just in the process of packing them at the factory door to ship them out. So and this is how we're just confirming the different numbers to go to the different shipping regions. Yeah,
because now what you've got to do is you've got to divide everything up and make sure it's going on different containers, and so it's going to different ports, and I guess make sure that you're putting together all the kind of the Wyvern. Is Wyvern's Lair going with that as well, or is that a different batch?
No, that was all completed at the same time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So owing to that delay, we weren't sitting around doing nothing. We were able to finish the Wyvern's product. That's all done now too. And of course, we've been working on some other games in the background, and we have the Catacombs Conquest game in great shape as well. So my understanding is all of its wood components are pretty much finished too. And we're already in the stage of proofing that in terms of the printed side of it.
So how'd that make you? I mean, when you found out about the components, how were you feeling? Did you do a lot of yoga that week to maintain some calm, or were you just like, well, it is what it is, I just have to dive in and see what happens?
I think it is what it is. Getting angry and frustrated doesn't solve a problem. I had to express my frustration to the printer representative to say, like, please do everything that you can to keep this thing on track. And by the way, he's been very apologetic. He's suffered some damage to his reputation in this regard as well. Yeah. So, he's doing his very best to help us out, and really wants to maintain Elzra as a customer, and of course he's never going to use that one wood factory ever again.
No.
Like they're done.
No.
Like they've lost the business permanently. So going forward, he'll never use them again.
Does that cost you money then? I mean, is having to switch from one factory to another? Did that leave you kind of out of pocket with the other stuff that the other guys said that they did or didn't do what they did? Is that kind of
well, to the printer's credit, he's picking up the cost for us on that.
Wow. So
he recognizes that this was his mistake, and so this is, if it was our responsibility, I would be sitting here telling you this was our responsibility and not looking to, as we say, pass the buck. But no, the printer is taking responsibility for this, but no, it's not. We're not out of pocket as a result. He recognizes the problem that we had here, and it was out of our control.
Well, you're a calmer man than me, Aaron, because I end up flipping a table if I lose at Mysterium or something like that. So you kind of manage to keep your inner peace and everything. No, I mean, I can understand. I mean, you can't. They'll be angry and they'll be shouting, and then they'll be, well, I might need to work with these guys again. So as long as he can get it sorted out, then that's fine. And I guess it's an embarrassment type of thing, because this is all based on reputation, isn't it? So it's going to be the case of board game designers speak to each other. Everybody knows that. So it's a case of, well, did you use this company? And it's like, well, yeah, I did, but you got to watch out. So this guy he'll be probably double super careful the next time he's kind of ordering kind of wooden components. But
we have a good relationship, so it's there wasn't any shouting matches between him and I or anything like that. We have a good working relationship, and it was almost in a sense an unavoidable problem because they manipulated his team too.
Yeah.
So we've just worked together to do our very, very best to solve a difficult problem as quickly and efficiently as we can.
Yeah, I mean, what's the feedback been like from the backers? Have you had a lot of people coming back? I've not noticed really a massive amount of kind of bad feeling or anything from. I think there's been quite a bit of understanding, but I mean, how have you found it? Have you found things that people have been disappointed, or have people been quite supportive and accepting of the situation?
I think so. Yeah, that's the general sense that I get. They've been very patient, very supportive, very understanding. Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, they would like to get the game. Yeah. We would like to get them the game. Yeah. Of course, we would like to get it all off the dock, so to speak, and into people's hands so that they can play it. But I think what's helped, I'd like to think anyway, is that we've been very transparent in our feedback to them. We've kept them involved and informed about the good news and the bad. Yeah. And I think that's really the key point. Keep people informed, be transparent. Yeah. And just be honest with them about where things stand.
I mean, for you, have you continued to have to work away and still do the kind of the long hours that you've commented on doing? I mean, have you now been almost kind of running this campaign solidly without a break now for a long time? I mean, does it feel like that?
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. I'm working really hard every day. There's no question about it. Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. What's in terms of then for Conquest, has this kind of put you off kind of launching Conquest? Are you going to wait until the backers for Catacombs and Castles get their stuff through before you launch Conquest? Are you going to go ahead and put Conquest kind of out there?
Well, I've been promoting the date of July 2017 sometime. Yeah. And I think at this point I'll probably just go ahead and launch it. Yeah. And the reason for that is that we're we're running out of launch windows for this year for new campaigns. So, of course, it would be best that people get this Catacombs and Castles first. We're hoping by the time that we do launch the Conquest campaign that some people will have received them.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but I'm hoping that our backers are understanding enough that that they will support us again here before, in some cases, before they will have received their main Catacombs and Castles order. And what'll be different about this campaign is that I'm deliberately keeping it very, very simple. So the design and development is finished.
Yeah.
We're already proofing the product with the printer. The wood components, a source of significant delay with our last campaign, is already completed. And there's only going to be the one product that you can back for. There's Catacombs Conquest.
Yeah.
And then there's Catacombs Conquest with an optional playmat.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
There isn't going to be the opportunity to order any of the other products in this campaign. It's just those elements, and I've priced them to be very affordable, and so there's a good value there, I think, in terms of the pricing that we've put on it, and I'm hoping that people say, okay, yeah, this guy's been straightforward and honest with us. He's obviously working hard to get Catacombs and Castles into our hands. There's some the thing is complete. It's finished.
Yeah.
It's not vaporware. It's sitting in a factory in China at the moment.
Yeah.
All it has to do is be loaded on a container, and I'm going to get it. So it's not a question of whether I'm going to get it or not. I am going to get it. There's no, I'll do whatever it takes that every single backer that backed the campaign gets their game. That's the kind of person I am. But I'm hoping that they understand that we're running out of room here in the calendar year to launch an additional campaign to get some other products into the marketplace, because I made a very deliberate decision not to launch a campaign around the Wyverns set, for example.
Yeah.
I said, well, let's make that available directly to retail, and then listening to some of our backers, we also made it available as part of the Catacombs and Castles campaign for those folks that were interested in that. But this Conquest one it isn't directly compatible with any of the previous Catacombs titles.
No.
But it's designed as around our system as an entry-level experience, and I'm hoping that that people will be understanding and will show up to support us with it.
It's you've got costs here on how much. So what's the basics? What's the basic set going to cost people?
At the moment, I've got it set at $24 Canadian.
That's nothing. Once you do the conversion.
Yeah, exactly. What is that in US at the moment? Let's see.
It's probably 22, 21. Maybe last.
1850.
1850. Okay, Captain Conversion.
Yeah, according to xe.com.
Oh, okay, right. So you didn't convert it during your head, so you cheated, which is fine.
Yeah.
Which that makes that probably about £16.
Do you want me to do the currency conversion?
No, I don't. You could do.
All right, let's see.
Let's see. Drum roll. I'll do a drum roll.
No, £14.
Wow.
£14.
Let's be honest. See, once you go out and you get, like, say, a Chinese meal, you get yourself a bottle of cola, you put Netflix on. I mean, you're into £15 territory just there to begin with. So what?
That's right.
So, I mean, that's ridiculously.
So £14 plus plus shipping, of course.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So maybe 20-some quid, something like that.
That's cool.
Something like that, I would think. I mean, I'm that's a number that's just totally off the cuff. I have no idea what the shipping would look like. But it's going to be under 2 kilograms, which is the magic number, right? The magic weight is 2 kilograms.
Yeah.
When it's under 2 kilograms, things become a lot more affordable. So it's I'm setting it up so that price isn't an issue when it comes to backing it. Now, of course, that doesn't include the mat.
No.
So what are we looking at if we include the mat?
$28 you said, I think you've got on the mat.
Yeah, that's right. So I put them together at $50 Canadian. So that's basically just under 20. That's 29.60 British pounds. And that gets you the core game and the optional mat together, and then of course plus shipping. So I think that's pretty affordable. I mean, most of the time these play mats they go for about $20 US for the size that we're using. We're using a very standard size. They're about $20.
Yeah.
And we'll be going with the 2mm thickness, which is the sort of standard thickness for them as well. So and the art, by the way, for that is all complete too. So I've just been told that to produce the mats is about 30 days. So we're in the process of getting the die lines together for that, so that we can get the artwork officially mounted and get that in production. So my intention is that everything be in production while we're doing the campaign.
So
it's literally being printed while we're doing the campaign.
Is that Quan Chai doing the art again?
Yep. Yeah, he did the art.
And he did this lovely picture of this beaver.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the ice beaver. Yes.
Is the ice beaver appearing in the game?
It may.
Just teasing us, Mr. West. Come on. It may not.
It's in the at the moment it isn't in the core game because it wasn't ready.
All right, okay.
In time for that.
Well, that's fine.
It might show up in one of the stretch goals or something.
Yeah.
So we could put him in for that potentially. Yeah.
Being quite a realistically but lowish kind of funding level as well. I mean, this is all in the preview, so anybody that's, has got access to the preview stuff will see that I think you're going for like 10,000.
Right. Yep.
Is that just a placement as well? Is that just a place marker, or is that what you're going to be looking
Yeah, that's a placeholder at the moment.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at that number in detail yet, because in some cases some of the quotations, like for the mat, for example, they just arrived at the office, so like literally a couple of days ago. So I'll probably review that, I would think. But yeah, that's safely a placeholder at this point.
That's pretty cool. We shall wait and see kind of what happens. For people that maybe didn't listen to the last episode, and it might be the case just because we have got quite a few new listeners kind of turning up on our doorstep. So hello, new listeners. Do you want to give a quick rundown again over what Conquest is going to be about, how it's going to work, just to give us a brief kind of overview of it?
Sure, and I think in doing that I'm going to break it into two parts. So the first part I'd like to talk about is the backstory.
Okay.
And where it fits in terms of the overall Catacombs narrative that I'm putting together. And then I'll talk a bit about the gameplay side of it.
Okay.
So the backstory is that it takes place in the future. So we're moving forward in time now. And there's some elements of this story that have been hinted at in Catacombs and Castles. So it's not an accident, for example, in Catacombs and Castles, that there are robots that appear both in the defense of the castle and on the side of the Wraith Knights.
Okay, yeah.
And so there's there's a site where some of this alien technology was uncovered. Okay, so it's this remnants of this other civilization that occupied some sites in this world that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And there's part of the story is that they ultimately come back again. Okay, and so in the future, where there was an event that occurred called the Event Horizon that fundamentally changes the world completely. And this game takes place after that event. And so the world now has completely changed.
Yeah.
And it focuses on the witch, Lenore, who is now remembering and dreaming about some of those heroes and champions from the past. Okay? So these are the heroes and champions that we know about from, say, Catacombs 3rd edition and Catacombs and Castles. So she remembers them, and as a result of that process, because she's alone at the moment, she's isolated because of this transformation that's happened. And these characters now appear within the Event Horizon itself. So they appear inside of it, and it's called Catacombs Conquest not because they're necessarily fighting each other.
Yeah.
What it is that they're doing is that they're being given the opportunity to revisit their lives and, in a sense, conquer their own fears and insecurities.
All right, okay.
And to recognize that there's the potential here for reconciliation and ultimately forgiveness between these very, very different people. Okay, so it's a way for this sort of sword team and skull team. This is how we put them in gameplay terms, but really they're one and the same, and it allows them to all come together in this sort of collectively imagined world. And that's how the map, for example, shows this. It sort of harkens back to the sort of the teleport card from Catacombs 3rd edition, because it's designed to have this sort of very surreal kind of look to it, because the action itself is taking place inside of the Event Horizon. Now, of course, my challenge is to distill all of this down to a few sentences for the backstory, for the manual, so that people actually understand what I'm getting at. Because the Wyvern story, for example, it's quite long, and I had some of my reviewers and editors come back to me and say, "Well, Aaron, this is pretty dense here. Isn't it just sort of a story about some people just sort of like fiddling around on the backs of wyverns? Isn't that good enough?" But I said, no, I want to sort of give them a bit more, and they can always skip it if they want.
Yeah, no, you don't have to read,
If you don't like the story, then just skip
Yeah.
it. But anyway, that's what I'm going for with Catacombs Conquest. That's sort of the, haven't obviously shared this publicly before, but this is the premise behind it. So this is one of the things I'm working on finishing for the manual. Is this little backstory section that explains all of this. So that's the backstory for those folks that are interested in that sort of thing. But the gameplay itself is designed to be very straightforward but strategic, and it can be summarized as follows. I have my cards, okay?
Yeah.
And my cards tell me and inform what I can do. So I play a card, and in playing a card, I execute a dexterity sequence, okay? So if I choose, for example, the Huntress, she's got a sequence that she can perform, and she's part of the sword team, so I'd be using one of my sword team disc to execute that sequence on behalf of the Huntress card.
Okay.
And then I get to move or flick one of the obstacle discs that are on the board. Because in this game, the obstacles can be moved around. So in Catacombs 3rd edition, the obstacles are fixed in the board.
Yeah.
And it kind of becomes like a pinball type experience.
Yeah.
I change the board.
Yeah.
I change the configuration of the obstacles. In Catacombs and Castles, there are no fixed locations that are drilled into the board, so to speak. There's different icons. And at the beginning of the game, we set up the orientation and position of all of the obstacles for that particular game, and they remain in place. And when we want to play again, we can put the obstacles in different orientations and positions according to the icons on the board.
Yeah.
And of course, there's different sets of icons on both sides. So in Catacombs Conquest, the idea is that you can move the obstacles around. And there's all sorts of strategic possibilities that emerge as a result of that. So
I was going to say you can really mess up somebody's day, basically.
That's the idea. Yeah, exactly. So you can really think of those obstacles as being, in a sense, like a bonus rush shot that you're always getting to execute.
Yeah.
So when I play my card, I'm using there's a turn tracker token that indicates what character is going to be able to move. So they're double-sided. So there's on the sword team, for example, it's green and purple, and on the skull team, it's blue and gray. So if the turn tracker indicates green, it means to say myself as the player in a 2-player game, I know it's my green character disc that is the one that has to move, that I'm playing the card on its behalf.
Yeah, yeah.
And that means to say my opponent doesn't have to worry about my purple character disc.
No.
So they will worry about them when they know that it's the purple character's turn, because the final step after I've moved an obstacle is to flip my turn tracker over. So to review, I'm playing a card, I'm executing that card's sequence as part of that, I'm moving an obstacle disc, and then I'm flipping over the turn tracker marker, and that's the game.
That's very quick.
Very quick. But out of that emerges a lot of different strategic possibilities as a result of what card I'm playing, when, because the cards also have special abilities on them. So the abilities allow me to capture life, heal life, for example, stun the other player. So we keep the number of dexterity system icons to a minimum in this game, and some of the mechanics that people would be familiar with from Catacombs 3rd edition, for example, end up being rendered as abilities so that people can just read it right on the card how they work. And of course there's new things too, but it's kind of a mix of the two different styles in a sense.
Yeah, because the fundamental difference seems to be between this and, say, Catacombs 3rd edition was that when you were playing Catacombs 3rd edition, you started off with a particular character, and then you were generally using the same character all the time.
That's right.
But it sounds in Conquest that you have a generic marker that you then assign kind of properties for that marker to take on in terms of its attack and skills and how often it moves and stuff like that, yeah?
No, that's exactly correct,
okay,
yeah.
Cool.
And the other big difference, of course, between this title and Catacombs 3rd edition is that it doesn't require an overseer or dungeon master type player.
No.
It's fully symmetric. So it's very, very easy for people to pick it up and to play with it.
Have you aimed this to be? I mean, one of the things me and Colin spoke about when we spoke about Catacombs originally was the ease of which it is for basically somebody of any age to come along and pick it up and play it and understand it because of the dexterity element. It sounds like you're kind of keeping in the same kind of vein, that Catacombs Conquest is going to be as equally, if not more, accessible than maybe Catacombs 3rd Edition was?
It'll definitely be more accessible.
Yeah.
It'll be much, much easier to play.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that you can do is expressed on the cards that you have in front of you in your hand, and that's it. So if I draw my 5 cards, for example, well, 4 cards technically, and then I get one at the beginning of my turn, I've got my 5 cards, and that determines what I can do. And there's mechanics where potentially I can be playing additional cards, during the course of my turn. But yeah, it's those cards are what I can do, and that's it. So,
how'd you go about
keeping it simple?
How'd you go about playtesting this? Because do you have a group of playtesters that you send this out to you? Do you go to like local board game clubs, cafes, stuff like that, or is there a select team that you always go to in terms of letting them kind of go through the rules and things?
It's a bit of all of those things, I would say. Certainly, there are some Kickstarter backers, for example, that are very, very interested and very enthusiastic about what we're doing, and we're very fortunate for that enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. And they give us a lot of feedback based on their own experiences with our games. Yeah. Because in some cases, some of our core backers, for example, they've played my games much, much more even than I have, believe it or not. So, I mean, they're running tournaments all the time. Yeah. They're just always front and center in their lives, so to speak, which is wonderful. So I listen very carefully to their feedback to understand what works and what doesn't. But yeah, there are local game cafes that we do go to and solicit feedback from. Groups of players there, conventions, another possibility. For example, I hope to have some sessions at this coming week at Dice Tower Con with Catacombs Conquest.
Oh, right,
if I can find some folks that are interested in playing it. I'm planning to bring the prototype with me, and people can see how it works.
Are you going to have a stall there, a stand? Are you just going to turn up and see who's going to play?
No, we're exhibiting at Dice Tower Con.
Oh, cool. Okay. Do you have and whereabouts is that going to be?
That's in Orlando, Florida.
All right. Okay, that'll be a nice little trip. Mm-hmm. Is it a nice little trip? I mean, I don't know how easy it is to fly. I don't know. It could be like 13 transfers, and you end up spending 27 hours flying or something like that. But I take it it's quite...
No, nothing like that. It's about 2 hours, and it's a direct flight.
Oh, that's okay then. No problem at all. That's fine. Cool. Do you have a stand number then? Have you got that allocated to you and things like that?
Yeah, but I couldn't tell you what it was. I don't know what it is. It's they sent around the exhibitor mat. Not mat. I'm thinking play mats. No, map. The exhibitor map. It's out there, but there isn't like a lot of a large number of exhibitors at that particular show, so it should be pretty easy to find us.
Cool. Okay. Is there going to be a lot of other kind of relatively well-known designers such as yourself going to be pitching up there as well?
I would assume so, yeah. I'm not sure. Probably.
Okay, cool. All right, okay. And how long's it for?
It runs from Wednesday to Sunday.
Wow. That's a long day demonstrating. That's especially if it's going to be solid days. The gaming expo in the UK usually opens its doors very, very early, but then continues actually late into the night. So will you be doing the same thing? Are you looking at kind of like 10, 11 hour days, if not longer for that, or are you going to have some help along with you as well?
Well, my brother's coming with me, so that's always beneficial. He'll give me a hand. I think if I remember correctly, the hours for the exhibit hall are usually 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., 5 or 6 p.m., something like that.
All right, that's good.
They do keep the gaming hall open.
Yeah.
Because it's in one big room. and they may have expanded into some other rooms this year, I'm not sure. But last year it was in one big room.
Okay.
And then there was like one section of the room where they had the exhibitors, and then that section closes at the end of the day, and then people can keep playing.
Okay. Have you been playing anything else yourself at all? Have you had time, or has the thought of picking up any other cardboard kind of been a bit bleh at the moment?
I've not had the opportunity to play an awful lot of games recently. Having said that, I'm thinking about the ones that I've tried. I did play Great Western Trail a couple of times.
Yes.
So that was quite enjoyable.
Yeah.
What else? None that are immediately jumping to mind. I know we played that one.
Okay.
I haven't had an awful lot of time recently to really play many games. Really, I would say.
I'm sure you've had more pressing matters to handle.
Oh yeah, definitely. yeah, definitely. But yeah, no, I did. That was the one. That's the one that jumps to mind that I did have the opportunity to play a couple of times.
Yeah. No. No. Are you looking for? Have you got a time in the diary to actually have a break and then just sit down and not have kind of anything connected with anything to do with tabletop or board gaming? Is there a date in the diary that you're looking forward to? You can just sit down and go, right, I'm going to do nothing.
Not really.
You're going to continue.
Not really, because I want to push forward with some of the other ideas that I have. Yeah. So I can talk a bit about those if you. Yeah,
because last time we spoke about the card game you were thinking about.
Yeah, the card game. That's right. Yeah. Yep. So that's had a complicated birthing process.
Okay.
So we were reasonably happy with where it was at the end of last year, and then I decided no. I want to continue to refine it a little more.
Okay.
And the design we have now, both Ryan and I are happy with, and I'm just waiting for the next iteration of the prototype to come in. It's being shipped at the same time as the next iteration of the Conquest prototype, so we can do some additional testing on it. And yeah, it's looking much better now, I would say. I think where we were with it before was that it was a little too complicated. It had too many moving parts. It had these different game phases, almost similar to the original Catacombs, for example.
Yeah.
And we've gotten rid of all that now. It's been the core game mechanic has always stayed very consistent. The core trick-taking type mechanic, as Ryan describes it, is intact. But the way that it's executed, we've really just sat there and brought that out now and really worked on some of the graphic design elements, and it's looking really, really sharp now.
Because originally
we're happy with it.
Originally, you would have a hand of cards, but the cards themselves were like double-sided. So you're running with, somebody could look at the back of your hand of cards and say it had an indication of potentially what kind of cards that they had, and then it was almost like a risk-taking exercise if you decided you were going to go up against those cards, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, that's correct, and that's part of that core trick-taking mechanic that's still there. We think that's the innovative part about it. So that's in there still.
Cool.
We've just brought the focus more onto that as opposed to some of these other phases that we had. We really managed to get it now to this core experience that we think people are going to enjoy, and it's going to be straightforward for them to pick up and get going with.
Did you find that you were working so close to the game and adding in all of the additional mechanics and functionality that you kind of glad did you almost like take a step back and then looked on it again, or were you not 100%? Because you sound like the type of person that likes to be 100% before you go ahead with something. Was there something that was kind of niggling away at you as you were working on it?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I thought that we had the design completed. There were a couple of minor issues I had with that design.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, after some more playtesting, I thought, no, let's continue to refine this. And by the way, we'd actually filmed a Kickstarter video around it using this original, in quotes, original design already.
All right, okay.
And despite even filming that Kickstarter video, I said, no, let's continue to refine it instead.
Yeah.
And it's benefited from that additional development time. So we've spent over 2 years on this title at this point.
Have you got a working name for it?
Catacombs Monster Pit.
Oh, there you go. Because I don't think... You probably did have a name the last time, but I don't think you mentioned it the last time. But
it used to be called Catacombs Deck Duel.
Right, okay.
At one point. But now we've gone with Catacombs Monster Pit.
Cool. And is Concha going to be doing the art for that as well, then?
Yeah, yeah, he's done the art. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah. He's kind of like tied to the IP.
In a lot of ways, yeah, he is. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We definitely benefit from having him involved. We certainly appreciate it.
Yeah. And what's the kind of the timescale with that then? What's the timescale with that now?
Well, I'd like to potentially be able to do a short Kickstarter campaign for that sometime maybe in early October, something along those lines, if I can. So this is how I really want to get the Conquest game going.
Yeah. Because
I'd like to get Monster Pit in front of people as well. Because you're sort of pulling the curtain back on over 2 years of work on it.
Yeah.
So it'd be by the time it gets fulfilled, probably it may even be 3 years in development, for example.
Yeah.
Because it might, if it was October or November, hypothetically, for example, it might be the following year in which it was delivered.
So you mentioned obviously the magical word fulfillment. Have you got an idea of kind of like fulfillment timescales for Conquest then? When you launch this, because it is the 1st of July.
Yep.
Have you got an idea of kind of fulfillment timescales for Conquest? You sound like you've organised this. You say, right, we've got this done here. This is all done. This is all done. I take it as just a case in some ways it's like pressing the button once you know how many you've got to do. I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm going for. Yeah,
cool.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of fulfillment time are you looking at then, roughly?
I would be looking to fulfill it as soon as I could.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm already doing all the proofing right now.
Yeah.
So the only other thing that would be required to complete would be any stretch goal content, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the core content, the core player mat, for example, all of those things, I expect to be putting those into production so that they can be ready to go. Because I'd like to be able to demonstrate to people that, for the things that are in my control, that we can execute and, make things happen quickly.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, I did decide that I'm going to put the fulfillment, supposedly, for Catacombs Conquest all the way next year. I'm going to give myself a nice long runway, just in case there's some other chaos that happens that I have no control over. So, I can already see it right now. Well, the factory making the rubber mats burns to the ground.
I'm not laughing at you, but you just kind of. I'm not, because that don't even.
No, but laugh about it, because it's almost the curse of Catacombs, right? I mean, every time I do this, every time I go to print something with this thing, there's a problem. Every single time. I've had a major problem every time I've gone to print something. Every single time. There hasn't been one. We can go all the way back to the original Catacombs in 2010, where we had the wood mold problem. So that was that one. Then what did we have in the next one? So the next printing of Catacombs, there was I know there was an issue there, but we can skip to the third printing where we had, of course, the gray obstacle discs were too small.
Yeah.
Out of all the possible discs that they could make too small, it'd be the gray obstacle discs, of course. So then we had to then send out the correctly sized ones.
Yeah.
Right? So there was that. Catacombs 3rd edition, I mean, that was, there was the challenges working with that one factory and how they managed to make several pretty fundamental mistakes. And then we have this one with the wood components.
Mm.
Yeah, the Curse of Catacombs is a thing. So I have to build this into my plans now, right? That there's going to be some kind of, something or other. Who knows what? I'm kind of curious to see what it's going to be. I mean, there's going to be something.
Aaron, just breathe.
It has to be.
Aaron,
seems.
Breathe. Remember the yoga. Breathe.
Yeah, no, exactly. Breathe. You got it. Exactly.
It'll be fine. I'm not going to say, I'm recording that and I'm telling you it's going to be fine. And all I'm going to hear probably about 4 or 5 months' time is there'll be a massive scream coming out somewhere from Canada.
Something like that, yeah. It's going to keep building up after all these years, right? Some epic scream.
Just going to be, man goes mad with cardboard.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I don't know,
right.
You've got discs. Those could be quite, those could probably potentially create a bruising or at least a couple of scars. Kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, and I'm guessing you'd be pretty deadly at the old flicking, seeing as you've been, probably playing and designing the games anyway, so you know what you're kind of doing. What's next? Have you considered taking up something less stressful, like say bear wrestling or something like that?
Well, I guess there are bears in northern Ontario. So bear wrestling could happen, I suppose.
Well, at least they're not going to get the wood wrong.
Exactly. That's right.
It's just like a straight up kind of fight.
Just a straight up kind of thing. Yeah.
But in all kind of non-seriousness, now what? Have you got plans for the next set of kind of stuff that's going to be coming from the Catacombs IP? Are you looking at something else completely different now as well?
Yeah, so I've got some different ideas that we're working on. The big one, if you like, that I am doing some preliminary research on, in terms of a production sense now, as opposed to more of the design sense, is this sort of armies type game.
Yeah.
I don't really know what it's going to be called ultimately, but this idea that you're going to have a larger scale of dexterity combat, if you like.
Yeah.
So you can have one side with squads of characters, for example, and against your opponent, and it'll be like kind of a 2-player initially type design where you're moving in and with a squad and attacking and all of that sort of thing. So that's and with a lot of these sort of die cut type structures, so that you can have like quite a large. I know people say, well, Catacombs 3rd edition already takes up a lot of table space, for example, but
yeah, it's a reasonable size. Yeah.
That's never really stopped me. So this one might have like even bigger, for example. So you'd have the walls that you could put in different shapes and things like that.
Yeah. And
then you'd have these die cut structures with these kind of armies. So that's something that I've been thinking about now for a few years.
Uh-huh.
And it's it would be set in the Catacombs world, if you like, but it would not necessarily be directly connected with the Catacombs 3rd edition, Catacombs and Castles systems, if you like, right? Because those are interoperable. This one would be a bit different in the sense of the way that it works.
Yeah, no, it'd be like it'd be like playing, say, Star Wars X-Wing and then playing Star Wars Destiny or something like that. You're moving between completely kind of different mechanics, even though it's kind of like the same kind of IP. I'm guessing like that, you know?
Yeah, well, the scale is different.
Yeah.
Where Catacombs and Castles, for example, focuses on individual champions, individual heroes.
Uh-huh.
There are some of those individuals that would play a role in this scale, for example, let's say like a commander or something along those lines, or medics. These, for the most part, you're moving entire squads of characters. So I'd have all my elves, for example. I get to move my elven unit together.
Yeah.
I get to move my, say like skeleton squad together.
Okay.
This sort of thing.
Yeah, taking it to the next level then.
In a way, yeah. But you were asking about like sort of future plans for the core Catacombs titles, if you like.
Yeah.
I think the one that I have plans for at the moment is the Towers of Tellarith one, which happens in terms of the narrative after the events in Catacombs and Castles and Keystones and Keeps, and where they go and they discover that site that I was referring to earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
What happens when they when they explore those ruins, and what do they find there, and how does that explain certain things, and that's the gist of where we would go next. And mechanically, there's some ideas that I have in terms of some of these power-up cards and things along those lines that would be relevant to both Catacombs and Castles and Catacombs 3rd Edition.
So if you, I guess you sound like you're kind of opening yourself up to working within the Catacombs and Castles or Catacombs IP, but expanding the type of games that you're wanting to kind of do, kind of bringing the world building at the same time, and kind of generally kind of grow the entire brand altogether. I mean, is that the kind of the ongoing plan for just now? I mean, have you ever sat down with white pieces of paper and just said, now what would you ever consider doing something that wasn't kind of involved in that world, or is this you kind of the direction that you're going?
Yeah, so there's some people, designers, that have approached us with some other dexterity-oriented games that they would like to have published. So I'm considering those possibilities as well. And of course, these wouldn't relate to the Catacombs IP.
Yeah.
However, they would still have a dexterity component.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having said that, I would like to do a straight-up tabletop game with no dexterity components. And Ryan's been talking to me about some ideas that he's had in that regard, and I suspect that that I'll collaborate with him on that in the future.
Right,
now that we're wrapping up on the design of the card game.
Yeah.
So we have some thoughts about what we'd like to see. Both of us, for example, we both like Talisman. We don't get to play it very often, but for a set it up and spend an evening messing around with it, there's some things there that are quite enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
The design of Talisman is deliberately open-ended, and in a way, that's what invites all of these remarkable possibilities that they've been able to build into it. At the same time, though, that leads to quite a sprawling, somewhat unfocused experience, especially if you start adding in all of the expansions, and, of course, Ryan has all of them. So I don't even think we've played a game yet with the newest one.
Yeah. There
was some sort of one where it changes all the world or something like that. You get a different map in the center or something.
Yeah.
We might have played that once, maybe. But like I said, we don't really get it out all that often.
Yeah.
it's sort of a tentpole kind of thing in the year when we actually get to sit and do it. But something along the lines of Talisman, where it's like an adventuring kind of game, but maybe a bit more focused. That would be something that I would be interested in working on.
So
he's also talked about he's got a lot of different ideas about what he'd like to do, and so him and I we tend to sort of sit and chat, and we what about this, and we've got a good working relationship that way.
So you're looking at towards, it sounds like you're going the kind of the publisher type route as well, kind of letting other people bring the ideas to you, and then you'll put it into motion and help them kind of achieve their kind of ideas, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think it'll be a combination of different possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
We will work with third-party designers. We will always maintain our in-house designs as well, and as part of that, while Ryan's interested in working with me on some new non-dexterity designs, for example, we'll continue to pursue those too.
It sounds like the bears are going to have to wait a couple of years before you're going out and wrestling them, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, probably. I mean, you never know. I mean, like, I visit Northern Ontario the odd time, so they might just be thrust upon me regardless of whether I'm ready or not. You never know, right?
I don't know.
When you're out in the forest, sometimes, like, we've got more coyotes, for example, around, so you might be wrestling coyotes instead.
If you had to fight off a bear with a board game, and you had the choice of any of the range of the Catacombs range that you've done just now, which one would you use?
You mean in terms of the title, or specific mechanics or shots? What do you?
I mean, the actual board, the box. Which game is the biggest? It would probably defend you from a bear the best. 3rd edition, Catacombs and Castles.
Probably Catacombs 3rd edition or the Wyvern set, because they're the same size box.
Yeah.
I would think he could probably... Yeah, there's some cardboard for him to tear through there a bit. That's for sure. I'm not sure. I don't think it would last all that long, but...
I don't know. Crunch away on some of the wooden pieces for a little bit.
That's exactly right, yeah. They're bright. They're brightly colored. Might be inviting for him. You never know, right?
You never know.
Who knows? Maybe we have to get Quan Chai to draw a bear now. Maybe that's what we have to have, right? I don't think we have any bears at this point.
Oh, right.
Actually, that's not true. We have a brown bear. He's on the Conquest. He's on the Conquest preview page. He did a bear recently. So, and I think I think we just call him Bear at this point. I don't think we've sort of assigned a particular region to him or anything at this time. He looks kind of cute though. He's not particularly menacing or anything like that.
You have to get that sorted. You have to name him or her, depending, because it could be both.
Well, how about you name him? You can come up with a name.
I'll come up with a name.
Go take a look at the name and send me an email, and you can name him.
Yeah, and
that'll be. I'll use your name.
That'll be cool. Is this the pink bear? No, that's something else. What is he? I'm just having a look.
I think he was originally drawn in purple, and then we recolored him to brown.
All right.
So I think there's 2 different versions of him at this particular point. It might be the brown one that's on the Catacombs Conquest page at the moment.
I'm going to have a look. And I'm going to bring him out, and I'm going to name him. I'm going to email him, and that's how this is going to work. That is how this.
Fine. Yeah, great. Yeah, great. Because he needs a name right now, and he'll probably show up as like one of the stretch goal characters or something like that. So, expect you to do a good job on this. Come up with a nice, good, solid Catacombs-ish name for him.
I will. Absolutely. If people have listened tonight and said, right, okay, I want to keep in contact with what is happening with Catacombs Conquest, they're looking at Catacombs Monster Pit with a bit of interest, and they're wanting to keep an eye on you in the future for the huge armies, Catacombs Army Conquest Battlefield game
Yeah, whatever we end up calling it. We might get you to name that too, right?
I don't know, I'd probably end up calling it something daft like Catacombs Gavin. Something
There
like,
you go.
There you go.
These things stick sometimes, you never know, right?
They sometimes do.
They just sometimes stick.
I was thinking you could call the bear Claude. Claued.
Claude?
Claude.
All right.
Because it's double meaning. You've got the French spelling of Claude, and then you've got Claude as in clawed by a bear. So there you go.
That's actually kind of interesting. All right, so we've got Claude the bear.
Yeah.
Done.
Dusted.
That's his name.
That's it. Boom.
There's his name.
There you
Done.
go. And you've live.
That was easy.
Live on the show as we speak.
Live on the show, right? This is how game design gets done, apparently, right?
This is it. It just, you don't need to spend months doing it. You just come on a podcast and we get all your problems sorted out for you.
Well, I'd already spent months though, right, trying to name them.
I
was at it for months, so this has solved it. We've got a name.
We can move on.
All the other ones that we had, like Betsy and Jane and Jennifer, we've decided he's definitively male, so we've put aside the female possibility, unfortunately.
Well, it could.
But we have cats and things like that, so the cats, the women can be represented.
It could be short for Claudia.
By the cat side of things.
It could be short for Claudia.
That's actually an interesting possibility. So you know what we can do?
Yeah. We
can have the brown one be Claude, and we can take the purple one and make that Claudia. So we'll do that.
There you go. Done.
Solved. Solved.
Move on.
We've got it. We've got it. Both sides now of the coin represented.
Brilliant.
Both sides of the bear coin represented. But there could be other genders and other ones, and that invites a whole load of other possibilities.
Exactly.
You never know,
You
right?
Can't, you can't assume.
But we've handled the low hanging fruit at least, right? Like the obvious ones we've done.
Need to get something else sorted out. I mean, anything else we'll just we'll have another episode and we'll just work through all of these important design questions. But where can they find you on the internet, Mr. West, if they wanted to find Elzra? How do we keep in contact with what you guys are doing and what you guys are up to?
Elzra.com. There's a newsletter that you can sign up for there. Mm-hmm. In terms of the online store, that's under shop.elzra.com. Yep. And there's a separate newsletter on that front for products coming back into stock and things of that nature.
Yes.
And then on Twitter, at Catacombs Game, as relates to the Catacombs IP specifically, and at Elzra Games as our company Twitter handle. I sometimes post some things at Aron West, which is my personal Twitter page. And then, of course, Facebook, same thing, facebook.com/catacombsgame and facebook.com/Elzra Games. Yeah.
And what we'll do is we'll take all of these links and we shall put them in the show notes so we have notes to show. If you want to keep an eye on what we are getting up to, then all you need to do is jump onto Google and search for We're Not Wizards. You will find us on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We are now on Pinterest. We are on iTunes, or Apple Podcasts is what they call themselves now. We've got our website, which is We're Not Wizards. Just We're Not Wizards, Google, you will pretty much find us everywhere and anywhere. If you have liked what you've listened to tonight, then please go over to iTunes and leave us or Apple Podcasts and leave us a lovely review. As we say always, don't leave us a 10 because that'll make us big-headed, and don't leave us a 1 because that'll make us cry. Give us a 5 because it's kind of in the middle and it's average, and we're a little bit average, but the one person that's not been average is the rather fantastic, rather magnificent Mr. Aron West. Thank you for coming on again, Aron. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure to find out what's happening with the Catacombs kind of IP.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to have been here. Thank you very much for having me, and hopefully everyone who's listening has enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's always good. And if not, we'll send the bears after you.
Yeah, Claude and Claudia.
And they can have a child.
Oh boy.
Claudette.
Claudette, make a note of that as well. Okay, all right. That's duly noted.
There you go. Get Quadshy on the artwork for that. As
Exactly.
quickly as possible. No, seriously, thank you for coming on. It's as always, it's always
my pleasure.
Always good to catch up with you and speak to you, because we are big fans of the Catacombs 3rd edition, and we are looking forward to seeing what happens with Catacombs and Castles when it's here.
Well, hopefully when I'm on next, we're not sitting there spending, a significant portion of the show explaining the very latest disaster. Hopefully you've actually got it in front of you and you can actually have actually played it and experienced it.
I'm going to tell you, if you come back on and you're talking about how the neoprene factory burnt down, I will be spending 10 minutes laughing. I promise you now.
Well, that would be fair. That would be fair. I mean, at this point, stranger things have happened. I'm almost expecting it. I'm almost going to tell the guy, make sure you've got a second factory lined up just in case the first one is incinerated.
Just such a thing. And as always, there's only a couple more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Aaron?
No, definitely not.
Definitely not. We are really good with these fingers, so watch yourself. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it is a goodbye from the amazing Mr. Aron West. Say goodbye, Aaron.
Goodbye, everyone, and happy Canada Day.
Happy Canada Day indeed. And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe. Roll 6s. I really want to see those fingers, get them exercised, because they're going to be needed over the next couple of months. Watch out for bears, but not Claude, Claudia and Claudette, because they could be your friends. But until the next time, goodbye.